Hey everyone, what's up? I hope you're having an awesome week. My first wash has fermented, been stripped, and now it's ready for the spirit run. So this week, that's what I'm doing. I can't wait. I'm really stoked to finally have something done and finished and ready to drink. So in this video, I'm going to show you that. I'm also going to have a quick chat about what a reflux spirit run is and why you do it and how it works. Welcome Distiller everyone. This is the channel all about chasing the craft of home distillation and making it a legitimate hobby. So if that's something you're into, if you dig home distilling, if you want to get into it, or perhaps you just really like craft spirits and want to know more about them, check this channel out. It may just be what you're after. If it is, hit the subscribe button down below. Alright guys, like I said, my FFV is totally ready to start the spirit run. I'm really excited. This is going to be the first time I have made like a finished product ready to drink. I'm super pumped. I am, however, not entirely sure how long this is going to take. I'm thinking probably about 8-9 hours, but who knows? It could be anywhere from like 6 to 12. Makes sense to do as much as I can tonight so I can walk out here in the morning, flick those elements on, and be good to roll. My still sitting here right now. I broke it down after that last stripping wash to give it a rinse out, so I'm going to bust that out, get it all set up and ready to go. I'm also going to charge the boiler right now with all those low wines. They're sitting in stainless steel pots right now. First question, I'm not entirely sure how to transfer those into the boiler. I don't think I really want to be running that 35% alcohol through silicone hoses. I don't know, man. I guess I'm just going to transfer it to a small pot and then tip it in from there. But let me know what you guys do. I'd be really interested to see what works for you. Alright, let's get stuck in. In the end, I did go with just putting it into a smaller pot and tipping it in. I did make this one little spill, which obviously I had to clean up, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Still, love to hear how you guys transfer. In any case, that was me for the night. I'll see you guys in the morning. We have a little problem. This is the fitting that was going from the hose tap to connect the coil to. And when I started everything up, it was leaking a little bit, so I cranked it up a little bit tighter and I split it. I tightened it too hard. I don't think I have another one of these, and I've got no idea how to hook that coil up to water supply. I think I've still got about 20 minutes before things start getting too warm with the boiler. I'll leave the elements on for now, but if it gets to a point where I don't have everything ready and it looks like it's starting to warm up, I'm going to have to cut power as well. And I guess I'm going to have a scrounge around and see what I can find. I don't think this is one of those things where I'm going to be showing you what I'm doing because I just need to work fast. So camera's off, and hopefully I'm going to come back to you saying how I fix the problem and not that I have to delay. We'll see. Alright guys, honestly it was a little touch and go there for a while, but we've got everything fixed. I scrounged a few parts, I pulled a few things apart. I have a water blaster to put back together now, but everything's working. It's in full reflux right now. I'm running somewhere between 800 and 1200 watts through this at the moment, and it's knocking everything down, which is great. So the plan, I'm going to run this in full reflux at about 1 kilowatt for about 40 minutes, and I'm going to do that to totally let the column fraction out. The whole column is packed with the copper mesh that Teddy Sad hooked me up with. Thanks again, dude, I appreciate it. I'm then going to raise the coil a little bit and take off 4 shots really super slow. So once I'm done with the 4 shots, I'm going to crank the power up a little bit, probably to about 1.5k. I'm going to put it back into total reflux again if I can. I don't know whether that will work. I'll have to try. Once it's fractioned out again, I will pop the coil back up again, get a nice slow offtake at the spout, and be good to go for the whole run. Hopefully. That's the plan. That has been 50 minutes now since this went into full reflux. I'm going to pop the coil up and I'm going to have an experiment. I've got no idea at what level I'm going to get the rate I want, so I'm just going to start trying things. Okay, sweet. So the first rung of the coil that I put it on seemed to be right around where I wanted it, so that's where I'll leave it. I'll come back when I've got 50 mils of force shots so I can let you know how long that took me and give you a flow rate coming off the spout. Alright, I am going to call that 50 mils. That took 26.5 minutes to take off 50 mils, so 53 minutes per 100 mils. I'm going to run this up to 200 mils and then I can put it back into full reflux and look at getting jar number 1 set up. Alright, there we have 200 mils. I'm going to put the coil back down as low as it will go. As soon as this stops dripping, I can take this off and throw it in the cleaning jar. Then I'll bump the power up a little bit, let it fraction out again, and then I can start taking off the heads. I'm also quite interested to see how long it takes to get a response from what I do up top there to down here at the spout, and it looks like at the moment it takes about a minute to start changing and then about another 1 or 2 minutes to sort of settle into where it finally is going to rest at. So I'm hoping in about another 30 seconds this is going to totally stop dripping. Alright, so that has been fractioning out for about 25 minutes, and as you can see, once every, I don't know, 40 seconds or something, I'm still getting a drip. I'm not sure if that's because there's still something coming through from the tea, or whether it's just what came through before still working its way down. In any case, I am now ready to switch over to jar number 1. Just going to pull this up nice and slow. Okay, so that is where we're at right now. I'm thinking I would like to go a little bit slower than that. And from what I've read about CCVMs, it's kind of a balancing act between the position of the coil and the speed of the vapor traveling up. I think maybe I want to dial the vapor speed back, which have been turning down the heat a little bit. So I'm going to give that a go now and see how that helps. Alright, so that's where I've ended up at after a little bit of messing around. As you can see, it took some time. But basically it was playing with the height of the coil and the amount of power I was putting it in. So I'm going to take note of exactly where the coil is, and I'm also going to mark on the board where my dial is for the power. I'm not going to take this off now because it's running, but there's a little 5K SCR in behind here. I will upgrade that if I stay with the SCR. I've also got a little computer fan over on this side, just blowing some cold air through, and these vent holes over on the other side of the box as well. I used a large jar for jar number 1 because I knew there was no way I was ever going to be blending that back into the finished product, so that's out of the way. Seeing as I have a few smaller jars, I figured I may as well use them from here until the point where I think I'm into the hearts, just so I can make cleaner cuts later on. That's the only reason I'm using the smaller jars. And then I'll switch back to the big ones. This is jar number 5, and I'm thinking that this is really starting to clean up now. Obviously, I've got nothing to compare this to. I've never done this before. I haven't smelt this or tasted this process before, but from all the descriptions that I've been reading online, I'm thinking this is what I'm starting to look for. So I've got this, I'm going to do one more tiny little jar, and then from there on in I'm going to switch back to doing 500 mils. So this, like I said, is jar number 5, and that is 1.25 litres so far. So we're now, I assume, into the hearts, but I'm not really going to know that because, let's face it, I don't really know what I'm doing with cuts. I've got a bit of time, obviously. I figured I'd have a little bit of a talk about this still, about how it's working and what it's doing right now, to maybe give some of the other new guys out there a bit of a head start and a bit of a jump in understanding and maybe deciding whether building a CCVM or any other type of reflux still is right for you. Basics first. Distillation is basically the idea that if you take a solution and heat it up, the more volatile chemicals are more likely to boil off first. If you can then recondense that vapor and collect the liquid, you can in some ways separate the different chemicals out as you go through the process. In reality, however, it's just not that clean cut and not that simple. All the different chemicals in the solution don't just line up neatly and come off by themselves. They drag some of the other chemicals out, or some of the more volatile chemicals will stay behind and come off later. In actuality, what you really get is more of a percentage game. you're more likely to get the volatile chemicals at the beginning, but you're not guaranteed to get them then or only them then. So what I just described is basically a pot still. And don't get me wrong, a pot still is great at doing what it does, but you're never going to be able to get 94% alcohol off a pot still in the first run. You could, if you wanted to, continually redistilling your distillate over and over again. The higher proof you put in, the higher proof you're going to get out. That, however, is not exactly practical when it comes to time or energy. So your other option is some sort of reflux still. In essence, basically a reflux still lets you do multiple distillations all at the same time. So if I had this running as a pot still, all of the vapor that reached this point would essentially be sent down the arm, through the condenser, and end up down below. What a reflux column lets you do is decide how much of the vapor that reaches this point you send over into your cuts jar and how much of it you send back down the column as reflux. Okay, cool, reflux. What the hell is that, right? I'm going to explain it to you in a pretty simple way, and it's not really accurate as to what's happening, but it should give you a really good idea of what's going on in here and how it affects your product on the other side. Any of the vapor that you don't decide to send over to your condenser and cuts jar, you're going to send back down here as liquid. It's been recondensed and it's going to fall back down through the column as a liquid. You may remember the copper mesh that I put in the column at the beginning. You can essentially use anything that's safe in high temperature alcohol vapor and has a really large surface area. That surface area is going to give a place for the liquid falling back through the column to interact with the vapor coming up the column. The liquid falling down the column is going to strip the less volatile chemicals out of the vapor that's going up, and the vapor that's going up is going to take with it the more volatile chemicals from the liquid that's falling down. So essentially what you have is a whole lot of distillations happening all the way down this column, allowing you to get a much higher ABV over at your jars, and in this case, seeing as we're making a neutral vodka, a much more neutral product. The key to a reflux still is being able to accurately control the reflux ratio. The reflux ratio basically describes how much vapor is going out to the product condenser and how much of the vapor is being sent back down the column as reflux. So a 1-to-1 reflux ratio would mean that 50% of the vapor is going to the condenser and 50% is going back down the column. The more vapor you send back down through the column, the higher the ABV and the more neutral the spirit will be at the other end. The other thing that's going to affect the ABV and neutrality of the spirit over there is the length of the column and the amount of packing you have in here. Right now my column is 0.7 meters, 70 centimeters, and it's totally packed with that copper mesh. That, I have to say, is definitely on the short side, and I will be upgrading. I'll be getting another segment soon. So obviously that was not an in-depth discussion on reflux stills, but hopefully if you're new to this and you're trying to decide what to buy, build, or run in any certain situation, it might give you a little bit of information that'll get you set on the right path. Alright, so that is jar number 8. And that is a little bit over 2 litres in total that I've taken off now. I have not taken an ABV, and the reason for that is that I didn't have anything to really test it in. These jars are too small to float the alchemeter. I didn't have anything glass that was the right shape. I may or may not have repurposed one of my wife's fancy champagne glasses. Dude, really? I think that's kind of tacky, but whatever. I'll hide it out in the shed, she'll never know. Don't tell her. Anyway, so that is reading at 89 at 11 degrees, which comes out at 91.3%. I don't know why the 0.3 matters. Okay, so obviously that isn't up around the 94-95% mark, which I should totally be able to get to with a CCVM still. I'm guessing there's one of 2 reasons, or a combination of reasons why I'm a little bit lower. 1, perhaps I'm collecting a little bit too fast. 2, which I'm thinking is more likely, is that my column isn't tall enough. But who cares, right? It's a couple of percent. For my first run, I am totally pumped with this. This is awesome. So I gave the power a little nudge. I'm guessing right now I'm probably running at 1500 watts. So now you can see that it's moved to just a little bit less than a steady stream. I'm going to run this jar like this, take a reading afterwards, perhaps have a good sniff and have a taste and see if it makes much difference, and then I'll decide what to do after that. Alright, so it turns out that has not changed the ABV at all. It's pretty much exactly the same, which in a way kind of makes sense because I haven't changed the reflux ratio. It's still the same reflux ratio, and to be honest, I can't tell you exactly what that is. I don't know exactly where the bottom of the coil is sitting in relation to that T. I should have measured it beforehand. I planned on doing it. I didn't do it. So that is number 10 overall, and the fourth jar of what I am calling hearts. Honestly, I'm thinking at this point in time, guys, I don't know what else to show you. It's just going to be more sitting around doing the same thing until I get to the point where I need to cut off for the tails. I don't know if there's much point doing the tails, and they're going to be so fractioned out that, yeah, I just don't know if there's much point with it. So I think I'm done, guys. Thanks a bunch for hanging out with me. Thank you so much to everyone that's helped me get to this point. I really appreciate it, team. So if you like the video, like it. That really does help me out, guys. If you really like the video and you're new here, have a think about subscribing. If you know what you're doing with these CCVM stills and you've seen me do something a little bit silly or something that I could do better, please get in touch. I take it well. If you're thinking about building one of these things, let me know where you're at with your build. Let me know what you're planning on building if you're going to do something else. And I'll catch you next time, guys. I don't know what I'm going to do next week. Alright, see you guys.